Hey everyone, and welcome to the next video as part of our series on converting this beautiful E-flite Beechcraft D18 into a little bit more military version. Today we're going to go over what I consider the hardest part of the project, which is trying to decide what scheme to use, right? Now, if you caught the first video, I'd have already decided for me what I was going to use. But there are so many variants out there of different D18s. If you wanted to use a civilian scheme, you want to use a military scheme, you could go either of those two directions and have an absolute plethora of aircraft. It's actually amazing when you start looking at all the different paint schemes and different applications this airplane's been used in. It can be actually very overwhelming to try to decide which is the best fit for you. I had already decided to do a military version, right? So I had already gone down that path. The problem is trying to determine what military version I wanted to go with. And I grabbed tons of pictures. I mean, I have a PowerPoint presentation that I use that I just drop documents into that I can take a look at, pictures. And it was a struggle because I knew I wanted a military version, right? Do I want it with invasion stripes and do an Army Air Force version? Do I want to do an early Army Air Force Pacific Theater one that's green and gray with the early 1941 national insignias on it? Do I need to do a Navy one? And there's just in that alone, there's so many different versions of the Navy, including there's some beautiful post-war versions as well, in which these aircraft were white and kind of a reddish orange, kind of like the T-28 paint scheme. Real bright and vibrant aircraft. And I know the T-28 has absolutely like beautiful visibility and orientation in the air with that bright paint scheme. So a lot of different directions that you can go with this aircraft. I mean, almost anything you could dream up, somebody has made one already, and you can copy it. In fact, I've even seen a Civil Air Patrol version of this as well. So, like I said, if you can, the sky's the limit in terms of what you can pick from. The hard part of that is the fact that there are so many choices to pick from. It can be very difficult to find out. I've known I want to do this project for a while, but I still didn't know what paint scheme I wanted to use. And it wasn't until I was at Oshkosh and I had an opportunity to look at so many D18s up close, both military versions and civilian versions, that I finally decided that the one I wanted to do was the U.S. Navy SNB-2 reconnaissance and navigation trainer. And the one that I saw on display was from the Indiana wing of the Confederate Air Force, or commemorative Air Force now. And that aircraft was one of the, I think around 200 or so that were made, that were designed right from the very beginning to go right to the U.S. Navy as a trainer aircraft. It was stationed in Hawaii during the war, and the tricolor paint scheme of that aircraft, dark navy blue on the top, intermediate blue on the side, white on the bottom, just to me looked like that's the scheme I want to do. It matches my Corsair. It's a really good fit for my hangar. It matches my Hellcat as well, and that's really kind of always been my favorite scheme. There's a little bit later war versions from the Navy that are all real high gloss dark navy blue. Very beautiful looking aircraft, but in my opinion, just it lacked a little bit of the visual punch that I was looking for. It's just solid all blue, and I think there's so many really cool features of this aircraft and so many neat shapes that making it a solid color like that, I think hid too many of the really cool features. It's already silver, so I could have gone a route of just painting it even more, adding more silver to it and painting it up as a U.S. Army Air Corps version of it as well, since they tended to be late war, they were bare aluminum. Or I could have gone the route of doing the white post-war Navy version, white with the reddish orange colors on it. But in the end, I decided on that tricolor scheme, and then came the process of getting the right decals for it. And for that, I called up Callie Graphics, and Callie has done all the work on my aircraft. She does an absolutely fantastic job. So I don't have the decals here to show you because she is in the process of creating a custom decal scheme that will go on this aircraft that will turn it into the model SNB-2 during the war. And to be honest, there's not a lot of graphics that go on this aircraft. It's going to be the national insignias on the wings and the fuselage. It's a couple little decals here and there, some prop decals, but for the most part, not a lot of graphics to this aircraft. It was pretty bare, which, you know, it's almost too bad, because like I said, it's got so many exciting things going on with it, but the graphics are going to be very subdued on the aircraft. But that's exactly how it would have looked in 1943 and 1944 when it was flying with the U.S. Navy. So I may do some nose art. I have not decided. I have seen a few aircraft that have custom nose art on it. The plane I'm trying to replicate doesn't have any nose art on it, so if I did something, it would be unique to my own design, and it'd be a little bit of a variation on the actual aircraft that is based in Indiana. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do that yet or not. So, like I said, the hardest part about getting started on this project is trying to figure out where to get started. Picking out your scheme. And I think, you know, the best way to do it is go to Google and just start looking up images of the Model 18. You can look up SNB if you're going to look for the Navy version during the war. You can look up a C-45 for the Army Air Force version. There's also the RC-45, which was the reconnaissance version of the aircraft. There's also Model 18, Twin Beech, D18. There's a number of ways that people have called this aircraft over the years, or it has been actually designated that. So make sure you just kind of do a very wide range search, and you will find that there are so many versions to pick from. Finding what version to go with is really one of the toughest things. But once you have that, grab as many of the pictures as you can. Grab all your documents. Grab pictures of what the cockpit looks like, what the exterior looks like, all the different angles of the aircraft, top, bottom, and the sides, to make sure that you could replicate it. That's what I end up doing. I grab all those pictures that I can, dump them all into a PowerPoint that I can reference as I go along on this journey. So you guys will learn how to turn this aircraft into an SNB, but you don't have to use the same scheme I'm going to use, or the same decals or anything. You can come up with whatever you want. You can even dream up your own scheme and do that as well. So plenty of options out there, but the hardest part for me is just what scheme to go with. I've been thinking about doing a P-47 for so many years now, but I still have yet to ever figure out what scheme I'm going to go to. So maybe someday I'll figure that one out. But on the Beechcraft here, there are a lot of great ones to pick from. It's just a matter of do the research, figure out which one you like, what you want to replicate, and then go ahead and get started. Order the product up, get the decals coming, and that's what I ended up doing here. I have the decals on order from Cali. I've gone with, I'm going to be using Tamiya paint. I have Tamiya dark navy blue coming for the top, and I have intermediate blue for the sides, and I'm going to be using Rust-Oleum 2X flat white for the bottom of the aircraft. I figure there's no sense in paying expensive paint prices for white, because I know the Rust-Oleum product works very well. So we're going to use the Rust-Oleum on the bottom, but I need to have the blue, the shades of blue, perfect. In order to really replicate that Navy aircraft. And so I use the Tamiya spray paints. You can get those right from Horizon Hobby. I think Tower Hobbies has them as well. You can also check your local hobby shops as well. Mine came from Horizon Hobby. So I ordered up the paints from them. I'm just waiting for everything to arrive. And then I'll go ahead and get started on talking about how to paint the aircraft. Before we can do that, we're going to talk about the cockpit. So I like to get the cockpit done before I start adding any paint to it. That way I can seal everything up inside and it doesn't get touched again. So the next episode, we're actually going to talk about breaking into the cockpit a little bit on this beautiful E-flite Beechcraft D18.